So we have these exercises and stuff we can do. We're on a Zoom call, so we can't really do them, I guess, right now. Um, but dream bigger sooner. What we think that we can do is less than what we can actually accomplish. Does anybody think that Jeff Bezos started out with Amazon and really thought he was going to have Amazon? Probably not. He just started Amazon, and then it grew into something really big. Now he had a vision, but I doubt he thought it would really be what it is today. And I think in our business, we put self-limiting beliefs. We put a cap on what we can do based on what we did this year or last year. I'm like, well, I can never sell more than 10 houses a year because that's all I've ever sold. Or I can never sell more than 50 houses a year, or whatever that number is, 1,000 houses a year. What's the guy, Spain, Mark Spain? He's the number one realtor in the nation. I see him all over everything. He started out just like everybody else as a brand new agent that had never sold a home. But he had a different vision. He set different goals, and he's been at it a long time as well. So we're going to set goals in all 7 areas of our life today, and not just money. I think a lot of people just look at work and money, and that's all they want to set goals in. If you do that, you'll probably be successful in work and money, and the other things can definitely suffer. A couple of quick tips that I want you to write down right now is set your calendar for 2021 now, between now and the end of the year. And what I'm talking about is go ahead and plug in your family time first. If you want to take a vacation on spring break, which is first week or second week of March with your kids, plug that in today. If you want to go out in June to Destin, it's a very popular. If I ever go to Destin in June or July, I see about 100 people I know from Nashville. Everybody runs down to Destin in the summertime. If you want to do that, plug that in now. If you want to be home every night at 5:30, plug that in on your calendar that you're home every night. If you say, hey, I'm going to work 2 days late per week, I'm going to work late on Tuesdays and Thursdays showing houses, or Wednesdays and Fridays, whatever your days are, make that on your calendar. If you'll plug in your calendar how you want that to look now, you won't have to make that decision in February, at the end of February, like, oh, hey, I'm supposed to go on vacation in 2 weeks. Well, man, I've got so much going on now. I'm going to cancel that. I'm not going to go. Okay, so go ahead and do your calendar for 2021. Plug in your family time and personal time first. Work's going to fill in plenty of the other time. So go ahead and do that. Next point, Clint, you want to talk about knowing your numbers? You really know your numbers well. Could you kind of touch on that?
Um, Knowing, I mean, I think that when you know what your numbers are, one, I think in our industry, not a lot of people track their numbers, how many leads they're getting, how many deals they are wanting to close, and how many they are closing. But when you're really knowing your numbers, then it sets you up for success to know what work you have to put in to hit those numbers. It also sets you up to know if you're on track or not. What's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing but hoping for different results, or something like that. If you're continue to do the same things and you're not getting what you want, but you don't change the plan, the numbers won't change. You'll continue to have the same results. So you can't plan for what you don't know, and knowing what your closing percentage is and how many leads you need to generate per month, so you can start breaking that down to a granular. How many leads does that look like per week? How many leads does that look like per day? And then how many calls do I have to make to generate one lead? And then you can really start to structure your schedule and your day to hit your numbers. And then it truly won't be guesswork at that point. It's just a matter of doing the work. Because if you do the work, the numbers never lie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So knowing your numbers is huge. Know how many leads that you get, what percentage you close, and then know how many leads you need to get to hit your goals, right? So if I want to double my business, well, I got to do something to either double the number of leads coming in or double the percentage I'm closing. So knowing your numbers, Clint, thank you for that, man. The next one, guys, is do you need more time to achieve your goals? Who needs more time in their day? I can't see anybody raising their hand, but Clint, you can raise both yours. Like, we all want more time in our day. And the easiest way to do that, who would like to have an extra 40 hours a week of work to get done in their business? Well, the easiest way to do that is hire a contract to close person that can take care of that paperwork, or hire an assistant that really frees you up and they work 40 hours a week in your business. So now instead of 40 hours a week, or maybe you're working 50 or 60 even, now you've got an extra 40 hours a week to put in. Now there's 40 to 100 hours a week being worked in your business. So I always am a big proponent of a team. In our business, we can't live without a team. You can't process loans and close loans. I mean, there's just, there's underwriters and funders and closers. There's so many people that we have to depend on. So we can't do it. A lot of realtors, you guys can. You can be a single realtor and not have that assistant. But what I see is when people who are doing well, they hire a great assistant, their business can double, triple, and really blossom. It is hard. It's not easy. I'm glad to have those conversations with you, talk about what they do, how they do it, how to interview. I'm glad to do that on a one-on-one. Clint's glad to do that. Mitch, any loan officer that you work with here in our office, we know how to have those conversations and help hire great people. So, Clint, I'm gonna ask your opinion if it's okay, man. Can we do the finger pointing exercise? I think it'd be great to get everybody up and get everybody in a positive state. And we're going to do a quick exercise. So I can't see you guys, but Clint, you think that'd be a good idea?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. So this is a cool exercise. I'm probably have to adjust my camera, maybe. Yeah, you may not really be able to see me very well, but anyway, everybody stand up. We're going to do an exercise that's about your mind's limiting beliefs. And I'm sorry you can't see my face here. So hopefully everybody's standing up that's on the camera. I know you can't see. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to turn our bodies and we're going to point at the farthest point that we can get to. So you keep your feet straight. We're not going to move our feet shoulder width apart. You're going to put your hands out. You're going to take your right finger, which you guys can see here, and you're going to just point to the farthest place you can get. Stretch, 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 stretch. Mark that place where you got to. Okay, that's about as far as I can go. Okay, so we know exactly where that was. So I want everybody to keep your feet exactly the same. Don't move. And I want you to close your eyes. And I want to just visualize yourself doing this without actually doing it. And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to take your finger in your mind. Again, you're not doing this physically, and start to spin around and go and feel your body as you stretch and point to that same place that you just got to. Okay. And it doesn't, this time it's not hurting. The last time it was a little bit, you feel that stress. And imagine in your mind your finger going, like 10% farther than it went the first time. And then imagine that your body can really twist. It's going 20% farther, right? And just in your mind, and your body is going 30% farther. It's going like almost all the way, three-quarters of the way around. Now in your mind, imagine that your finger can go all the way around and point back in front of you 100, 360 degrees, 100% circle. Imagine your finger being able to do it, and it doesn't hurt. Your hips aren't hurting. It doesn't stretch. It's just like, wow, I can't believe my finger can do that. And then imagine one more time that it goes even past that. It goes all the way in front of you. It's stretching, stretching, and goes just a little bit further than all the way around a 360-degree circle. So, so now I want you to open your eyes. I want you to point that finger just like you did the first time. And I want everybody to stretch and just see if you can go farther. Mitch, I'm glad you turned on your camera now. So I've done this exercise several times. There's different places that I've been and done that. And the time that I just did it, I went at least 20% further than I did the first time. Right. So that's the mind's ability to just think about going further, doing more and doing more. And then your body does it. Because in your mind, if your mind's doing it, your body really doesn't know the difference in your mind practicing something and doing something in your mind and physically doing it. So, uh, did everybody do that? Did everybody get a little bit further the second time? I see Brian saying yes, Vicky saying yes. Suzanne, how did you do? You turned your camera on? Awesome. So hopefully that, if nothing else, that gets us up, gets us moving a little bit, and it shows you the power of your mind. Because I bet you the first time you went, it's like, oh man, that's hurting. And the second time you went to that same spot, it's not hurting at all. And you keep going another 2 or 3 feet. So thank you guys for bearing with me on that exercise. And let's get into the wheel of life. All right, so I'm going to do a screen share just to make sure we're all on the same page. All right, so you guys should be able to see my screen. Can you guys see my screen? It says the Wheel of Life. Where are you now? Clint, can you see that? I just want to make sure I'm seeing it before I. Okay, cool. So this is what we're going to fill out. Hopefully you have it printed out. If you don't, you can type on this Word document if you want to. The first thing we're going to do each box. We're going to take our time. I'm going to give everybody plenty of time. So the first one we're filling out, it says, where are you now? Okay, write down the date 12/9/2020 on your sheet, because that is where we are today. And if you were to do this same exercise in a week or a month, you may have different answers. You may have different things that come up. So this is just a snapshot of where we are today. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see everybody here. So the first box is going to be money. And what we want to do, we want to write down the two things that maybe frustrates you in that area. Okay. Do you want to save more? Would you like to make more? What frustrates you about your money? Do you have some debt? You have some credit card debt you want to pay off, some student loan debt? What's frustrating you about your money? Maybe you'd like to own some rental property to have some more passive income. It's not completely passive, but it's definitely nice to get a check that you didn't have to work quite so hard for if you have a rental property.
Hey,
So
Chris.
Yes, sir.
You can't really type in here if you don't have it printed out. So maybe a good suggestion would be just, to kind of do this on a piece of paper.
Yeah, if you don't have it, yeah, I'm sorry. If you don't, yeah, that's a good point, Mitch. Thank you, because I was not trying to type on it. You're right. The way it's formatted is you can't really type. So if you didn't print it out, just do it on a piece of paper, and then you can transfer this after you get a chance to actually print it out later. So what are the two biggest areas in your life that frustrate about your money? And it doesn't have to be a huge frustration. It could be anything. So then after you have thought about your money and where you are right now, I want to rate that on a scale of 1 to 10 in the box to the right. Okay, so 10 is you're Jeff Bezos, right? Money's not a problem. You're worth a couple $100 billion, no worries. 1 would be maybe you filed bankruptcy this morning. Hopefully nobody is in, everybody should be in between the two. So 1's really bad, 10 is perfect. Where would you rate your money? And I actually just did this exercise last week, and I'm going to kind of review my notes and kind of do it again.
And is 7 an option or no?
Yeah, so we've talked about it before. Try not to use 7 as an option, right? It's really easy. 7's kind of like, it's good, but it's not great. So I had a coach one time tell me, never rate anything a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. It's either an 8, which is pretty good, or it's a 6, which means it needs some improvement. So yes, Mitch, good point, because 7 is definitely a very tempting number to put because it's okay, but it's an easy, it's not great, it's not good, it's just a middle of the road number.
Also, I don't know if we said this, put the date on the top left or right hand corner of this. Really easy to forget when you did this. And I have mine from 10 years ago, and all the years in between. So you can go back and look at them, but if you don't have it dated, it's hard to know which year was which.
Okay. And so everybody should have 2 things about money that they want, they're frustrated about, scale of 1 to 10 rated. And Clint, would you lead us through work?
Same thing, top 2 frustrations around your work, and really think on it. If you've done this before, it's easy for it to be the same thing as it was last year, but really think about what your top frustration is. Is it, not enough clients, working too many hours? That's something that a lot of people will have as a frustration. I know that's been mine often. Maybe you're not getting leads from the right places, right? And one of your frustrations is you feel like you're working with clients that are really, really hard to work with, right? But it's got to be specific to you. It can't cheat off someone else, because someone else's frustration, that won't be yours. So top 2 frustrations around your work, and then rate that again on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you couldn't pick a worse career to be in, and 10 would be nothing could ever improve. It's only going to go down from here. So hopefully none of us are at either of those.
And don't confuse too. Sometimes people confuse work and money. Like your money could be great, but if you're working 80 hours a week and your spouse hates you because of that, that's the problem, right? So sometimes the results can be really good, but you're out of control. I know Clint talked about working too many hours. For years, I struggled with getting home on time for dinner. I remember telling my wife Melissa, she's like, can you not just be home by 6 o'clock, 6:30, so we can have dinner? I'm like, I can't start working until 5 o'clock. That's when the phone finally stops ringing, the emails finally stop, so I can get to what I need to do and work on. That was just a cop out, honestly, because you can do it. You just have to decide what's more important: dinner with my family or answering emails. So it's just a decision we all have to make. The next one, guys, is self. What are the 2 areas with yourself that you would like to see improvement? What frustrates you? It could be, don't have enough energy. Maybe you're not working out enough. Maybe you're not at the ideal weight that you would like to be at. Um, Lots of things that could go down there. It can be anything you want. My wife is bringing me coffee. I'm going to ask her to come over here. She's trying to slide it in and stay out of frame. I'm very lucky. Thank you. So lack of coffee is not my frustration. I'm good. All right, guys. So 2 things that frustrate you about self, and then how would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10? Where is your um, where are you at? 10, perfect. Everything's great. 1, not good. And I'll share something with you guys too. Again, I did some Tony Robbins events. I went to several of them. If you ever go to one of his events, which I highly recommend, you will learn more about yourself and why you do what you do than you ever have probably in your entire life up until that point. That's really what his events are about, is learning about your psychology of yourself and what's limiting you from getting the things that you want in life. Clint, you want to get friends?
Absolutely. Top 2 frustrations around your friends. And after you do that, we'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. This is the tougher one for me usually, because honestly, that this is an area that I probably spend the least put the least amount of focus on. It's probably the least important, just because a lot of my focus goes to other things on this list. But think about what frustrates you. Maybe you've got friends that you don't see enough. Maybe you have the wrong set of friends that don't uplift you and bring value to your life. What is the saying? The quality of your life will be determined by the closest 5 or the closest 7 people that are around you in your circle. Maybe you need to upgrade to people that bring you up. But what are your frustrations around friends? And then rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And as we're finishing this up, this is a box I'll tell you a little story about. So I did this with my family last week, and on the friends section, one of the things my wife Lacey and I talked about was, wanting, friends that are closer to us in location, but also in the stage of life, because we have little ones at home. And both of ours was kind of the same. Like we need to intentionally spend time with the people that we like, or with some of the people that maybe we haven't gotten to know as well. Literally yesterday, a buddy of mine that just moved to Mount Juliet texted and asked us to come over for dinner next week. And the reason is because we had been kind of communicating with him a little bit. And Lacey and I said, man, we really like hanging out with him when we hang out with him. We just never do. So we intentionally, like I had a conversation like, we need to get together. He has a newborn. We have a newborn. So he and his wife and me and Lacey will get together, and then probably before Christmas and have dinner. But one of the main reasons that happened is because I wrote it down. It was something I was aware of. And then I had a conversation with him about, we need to hang out more. We really like hanging out with y'all. And he said, yeah, it's funny. Sarah said the same thing. Let's grab dinner soon. And here we are trying to schedule it. So the awareness of this is what kind of brought that about. If that makes sense at all. If I hadn't done this exercise, when I talked to my buddy Ray, who just moved to town, we probably wouldn't have talked about getting together. So
And I think this year too has kind of been one of the, it's really kind of, for me at least, it's not dampened my relationships. I've just lost touch with people more, because you're not able to go and do things like you were in the past. And so I think hopefully 2021 will, start coming back to normal a little bit. So I think that's a great goal to kind of, for me, it's, give more attention and communicate more. And maybe we can't still get together as much this next year, but maybe finding other ways to communicate more and to pay more attention to,
Yeah.
friends.
So Mitch, I'm going to share something that I was doing this last week, and a guy said that he now has put his friends on a list, and he makes one call every Friday on his way home from work to a friend. It's kind of weird to put your friends on a list, but like you have to. Like if you like, I've got a dozen friends or whatever that I would love to talk to, but if they're not like organized in some way, I'm just not going to think about it. So he like literally put them on a list. It's like, hey, every Friday I'm going to call one of my friends, and on the way home from work, I don't know if he's got a 10 or 15, 20-minute commute. He picks up the phone and calls one of his friends and just stays in connection with those guys. I
Yeah,
thought that was a really good
that's
idea.
that's a great idea. And the thing is, this year has caused you to kind of not, because you're not thinking like, hey, what are we doing this weekend? Are we going to get together with our friends? Are we going to, because it's just not kosher anymore, right now. So it's not one of the things that's top of mind, but that's a system or something that allows him to keep them top of mind. And I like that. It's a good idea. The list thing's kind of funny, but it forces you to maintain those relationships, which are important.
Yeah, and I'll share one more thing before we move on. I have a good buddy that passed away this past year. A guy that I played basketball with in college for 4 years. We were, I consider him one of my best friends. I hadn't seen the guy since he graduated in 2002. We stayed in contact on text. I talked to him occasionally. He had moved to Michigan, so it wasn't like he was just around the corner. But he got cancer last year, was diagnosed in November, and then he passed away 9 months later in September. So, um, you know, eh, just making a point to see your buddy. So, a few of our friends went up to the funeral 2 months ago, or I guess it was 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago. And we set a weekend, the first weekend in June. We're going to get together. It doesn't matter if it's like, hey, let's go play golf for a day. Let's go, spend the night, rent a lake house for a night or two and hang out. But we're going to have a weekend that my college buddies, and hopefully Clint, he was buddies with him too. We're going to invite probably 10 or 12 guys. Who knows if 4 or 5 might show up every year because people have different schedules and different things going on. But that's something that we did. And, you just can't take that for granted. And I definitely wish I had, spent a little bit more time, um, with my friend that's no longer here with us. So the next one, guys, is family. So what are, two things that maybe frustrates you about family, maybe not spending enough time with them. We talked about that. Being on time every night for dinner is a big deal. And, that's something that's always going to be a struggle, right? I mean, you can't in our business, you just can't say I'm going to be home every night at 5:15. You can at some point, but it takes a long time, a long, long time to get there. Did you have vacation with the family? Right. I think it's very important, if you're married, that you take, even if you have small kids, you take at least one vacation every year with just you and your spouse to get away. Hopefully, you can find somebody to watch the kids. And if you have kids, it's also very important that you take a family vacation. Right, as they grow up, those are cool memories, and doing different things with your family. So, what are two things that frustrate you in that area of your life? Or maybe you have a relationship that you need to mend with a family, maybe a brother, sister, you know, more distant family member that you would like to have a better relationship with. And also go ahead and rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 perfect, 1 bad, probably somewhere in between. Clint, you want to take the next one?
Love life. Top two frustrations with love life. So if you are dating or are married and have a significant other, you'll be thinking about that. If you don't, then maybe that is your frustration. Um, then there is no one in that category. Um, so think about what your top two frustrations are around love life, around that, and list those out, and then rate that on a scale of 1 to 10.
If you have that spouse, are you getting that weekly date? That's a big deal. And doesn't, I don't think it has to be every single week. I think that's hard if you have kids. I have 3 kids, so trying to find a babysitter every single week is hard. But a couple times a month, it should be doable. And making sure you have that time. You don't want to, your last kid is 18 and they move out, and then you turn around looking like, well, who's this person that I'm living with? I don't know them anymore, right? Because I've had these kids that have taken up all of our time for the last several years. So very important to have a date night, and score that on a scale of 1 to 10. And the last one, guys, is spirituality. And what are your biggest two frustrations? Are you active in your church? Do you have faith? Do you need to grow your faith? Where are you in your spirituality? I think if you don't have a spiritual life and you don't have that relationship, you'll always have something missing that you may not be able to put your finger on, but that may be what it is that's missing. And then rate that on a scale of 1 to 10 as well. Okay. So everybody should have, if you did 2 in each box, 2 frustrations, you're going to have 14 frustrations. Chris Ebert just turned his camera on, got his hat backwards. There he is. So what is your biggest overall frustration out of your 14? So kind of read through them real quick. And what pops out as your biggest one, maybe even your top 2 frustrations? Like, you know what, this is very frustrating and I need to fix it. And a lot of times we live with frustration in an area. We just kind of deal with it. Like, yeah, I don't really like this, but I'm not really frustrated enough to change it. So hopefully we're going to help you make some changes. So everybody write that down. And I would like to see, did anybody have a lot of years it has been focused on time? So if I talk about my work, I'm spending too much time there. If I was talking about self, I wasn't having enough self time at the gym. Family, I wasn't spending enough time with family and being home for dinner at night or going on vacation. My love life, I wasn't having a date night. And I remember there were just so many years when, like, I would have different frustrations, but it really revolved around my time management or lack of time management, right? And we should all write this down. We don't have to do anything. I had a coach one time that's a very, very successful person, multi millionaire. And I was like, man, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I've got to do that. And he's like, Chris, stop talking. Like, you don't have to do anything. You live in the United States of America. If you want to drive home and watch Dr. Phil, you can. Now, I'm not telling you to do that, but you don't have to do anything. So when you choose to do whatever you're doing, just make that cognitive thought in your mind that you're choosing it. When you choose to work instead of go home, just know that I choose to. So I'm going to choose to work late tonight. And I'm like, okay. And it's a different way to think about it. Now, it doesn't mean that I have complete, I still feel like I have to do certain things, right? But I get to now. I don't have to, because that was a great point that he made. He's like, when you stop saying that you have to do something and I'm choosing to do this, when I say, hey, I'm choosing not to be at home with my kids for dinner, I'm going to change that in the future to where I'm no longer choosing that, right? But that's a different way of me thinking. I have to
That's a
stop
great
saying I have to.
that's a great point. And being frustrated with whatever situation you may be in, you're not happy with where you're at. Like I've heard this before, where the company you're with. Well, once you put "I choose" in front of it, I choose to be at a company I'm not happy with. You realize you have the power to make those changes. I choose, to whatever the situation or the frustration is. But that's super powerful, Chris.
Yeah. And just a little different way that we control our words will control our destiny. Your words are so powerful. All right, guys, let's go to the next page, which is the visual wheel. Um, make sure I've got that up. So everybody should see that. Do I need to do a screen share so anybody knows what we're talking about? It says visual wheel at the top. It's a circle. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the numbers from the first page. Let's say, and again, hopefully you printed it out so you can do this, but let's say that money was a 5. Okay, so you'd start in the middle and you count out 5 dots and put a circle on the number 5 dash. Let's say that work was a 7, or no, we didn't do 7. So let's say work was an 8, right? So we'd count out 8 dashes on work. Self was a 4. You count out 4 dashes on 4. So whatever your numbers are, let's mark those in, and let's put all those on. And once you're done, you're going to draw and connect the dots and probably have a perfect circle that's all 9s and 10s and just looks like a great perfect wheel of life. That's kind of a joke because that never ever happens. Awesome, guys. So does everybody have a wheel of life filled out in circles? So I'll show you mine. I don't know if you can see it, but it's not very circular. It kind of looks like a football, like a flat-ended football, maybe like a bullet. I don't know. So um, just check yours out. Does anybody have a perfect wheel, or do we have a lot of flat tires? Anybody have a flat tire? Anybody have like a star, like some different areas? So what's your biggest aha when you look at that, right? If you have a flat tire, let's work on that flat tire. What needs to be moved up 2 or 3 or 4 notches to give you more balance in your life? And that's why we work on all 7, because if you're doing awesome in work and money, but you're really struggling with your family and love life and yourself, are you going to have a fulfilled life if those areas are not going well? I personally would choose to rather have a good family, love life, and self than the money. Like, if I have to choose, you better choose that, because um, we can all go and fix the business and fix the work, but if the family and the spouse is not going well, that's a much bigger problem that can be a lot harder to fix. Does anybody else want to show their will? Nobody? No worries. It's not something that's that easy to share. So you should have a big aha. Write that down when you look at it. Like, what do you need to work on? What's the one that's low? Or maybe you have 2 or 3 areas that are low. Write that biggest aha at the bottom. All right. So then I want to. Okay, I'm going to do a screen share. It looks like I think we have some chats over here that I'm not seeing. I'm sorry. I'm going to open that up. But all right. So this is my wheel for anybody that needed to see that. Did everybody know what the wheel is now? Cool. And if you don't get any of these tools or something and it didn't come through, let us know and we'll definitely get you a new copy. And where will you be? So this is the next one, guys. And by December 2021, okay. So where do you want to be in a year? A year's a long time. Who could have predicted, what happened in 2020? There's some things that we cannot control and we will never be able to predict. Fortunately, in our business, real estate has done really well. And nobody would have thought that. I would have thought that real estate would have, definitely had a little bit of a hindrance with everything going on. But so far, real estate has been the one big bright spot in the economy, basically throughout. Like when COVID hit, everything shut down. I feel like April was a little slow. There was 2 or 3 weeks there where people kind of froze. But by May and June, if you were working and you were out prospecting and you were, doing the business, you should have done pretty well the rest of this year. Did you guys find that if you worked hard, that there were definitely buyers out there? The hardest part was trying to find a house for a lot of buyers. The inventory is a little bit low, but there's definitely buyers that want it, and there's definitely sellers that can get top dollar and get over asking price this year. So if you're willing to work, there's always going to be opportunity. So we're going to take for our money goals. We're going to set 2 goals. What I like to do is look at what was frustrating you in your money. So let's say that the top frustration was I have $20,000 in credit card debt. That's my biggest frustration. I hate it. I'm paying too much in interest. So what would a goal be? Well, in 2021, I'm going to pay off my credit card debt to 0. Right? Let's say that you're.
And I want to jump in here because a lot of times your goals here on this last page should fix the frustration or should address the frustration on page 1. If your frustration was credit card debt, but your goal is to buy an investment property, it's like, well, next year you're still going to have your major frustration of credit card debt, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have to align, but it makes sense that it would. If your number one frustration, it's something that is really pulling you down in one of these areas, then you would want to set a goal around solving that frustration and addressing it. So the next year when you do this, it's like, man, that credit card debt's no longer an issue. That's paid off. It's down to 0. So my next 2 frustrations are, I didn't invest enough. Cool. So 2021, we're doing this, and your new frustration is something different, and your goals around that would be different as well. But it doesn't really make sense to say my frustration with, work is I'm working too many hours, and then my goal is I'm going to try to pick up a builder account where I can, increase my hours even more, right? Like it wouldn't make sense. Those things don't align. If that.
Yeah, very good point.
So you want your goals here on this last page, most likely to align with what the frustrations are, because next year you don't want to have the same frustrations. That would make you an insane person to have these same frustrations and never work on them and always have the same frustrations in these areas of your life.
And write these goals in a completed sentence. Like, I paid off 20,000 in credit card debt and have 0 credit card debt. That would be how you write, like it's already done. Because by December 2021, these goals are going to be done. Again, it's a little thing, but your words and how you write things are a big deal. Also, they have to be measurable. Like, if I'm going to say I'm going to reduce my credit card debt, well, crap, that could be a dollar. If I owe 19,999 next December 21, well, I've reduced it, right? So let's say you have a lot of debt and you want to reduce it by half. So if I owe 20,000 and my goal, I don't think I can get rid of all 20. I want to owe 10,000 or less. I have paid my credit card balances to 10,000 or less. by 2021. And again, go back to think bigger sooner. You can probably accomplish more than you think if you put your mind to it and put your heart into it. So I'm gonna give you guys a minute. I know we talked a lot. Give you guys a minute to make sure you write those 2 goals for your money. And you also can have a 3rd goal in any one of these areas. Number 2 is going to be work. Again, read over the 2 frustrations you have in work, and then set at least 2 goals to complete those, to fix those frustrations. And I always think work should have some type of unit goal. So maybe your 3rd goal is to close how many units in 2021.
Does yours have a unit goal? I'm not asking what it is, but does it?
So actually mine does not. I have different goals for the office. It has more of an office goal for my work, but not a personal production goal. It does not yet. Well, the one I did, and this will not be my final one, so I may add that unit goal as I do this. I'll do this at least 1, maybe 2 more times before the end of the year, and then I'll make a final one.
Well, and mine doesn't either, but I will have goals set, right? So the reason I ask that is because my frustrations aren't around not closing enough deals this year. My frustrations are around working too many hours, having some problems that I want to clean up, and working on some other things that need to be worked on. I will absolutely have goals of how many units and how many volume and how much volume and all these things. But my goals here are not around that because my frustrations are not around that. But we're going to talk about the business plan and the goals side of it. But I was just kind of curious on that.
Absolutely. Clint, you want to get self?
Yeah. So top 2 goals around self, again, probably relating back to, page 1 about your frustrations, but what are 2 goals around self? So if it's, Chris mentioned this before, right? But if your frustration was you want to lose weight, or you're not healthy, you're not feeling healthy, then maybe that goal is not I lost weight, but I weigh a certain weight, right? So for me, that would be 180 pounds, right? So I wouldn't say I lost 10 pounds because I don't know about y'all, but I'm probably going to gain 10 pounds between now and the end of the year with Christmas. A lot of family get-togethers and food. So it would be a specific number, but also within that, it's we're going to talk a little bit more about this, I believe, but not just, I'll weigh 180 pounds, but we'll, by working out 3 times a week and eating healthy 6 days a week, or, putting some more specific things around that. If it's one of mine was time, right? Like I don't feel like I spend enough time doing things I enjoy doing, pursuing hobbies. I love fishing. I never go fishing. I love golfing. I golf a little bit more than I would like to admit, but not as much as I would enjoy to go golf, right? So the goal would be to, maybe take off early 2 Fridays a month, or take off 1 or 2, one Friday a month every month, and just spend that time doing something I want to enjoy doing. But writing them as if they've already happened is critical. So again, if it's a weight thing, you don't put I lost X amount of pounds or whatever. You put I weigh this weight. So
The next one's friends. So what are you going to do in 2021 with your friends? I put on mine the Friday call, and there's no reason I got to wait till January, right? I can start making a call to at least one of my buddies on Fridays. Are we moving at a good pace for you guys? You guys need more time? Raise your hand if you need more time on each one of these. All right, I think we're not moving too fast then. And it's funny, one of these I've already solved. Put to get together with my buddies in June. It's still a goal because I haven't done it, but I've already put the thing in place and already put it on the calendar for the first weekend in June. So I'm really glad that that's on there. The next one, guys, is family. What are 2 things that you want to have happen to maybe alleviate those frustrations? You know, do you want to go on 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 family vacations? One great idea that I've always had a trouble implementing is a weekly date afternoon with your kids. So I've got three kids, and they say, you know, when you're with all 3 kids, they get a little bit of attention. But I heard somebody say that they would take their kid on Fridays at least once a month. They pick them up from school, and they'd have 2 or 3 hours. They go watch a movie. They go to the park. They would go fishing, and they would have just, you know, daddy son time, daddy daughter time, mommy son time, mommy daughter time, to where it's just a one-on-one, and there's no other kids around to distract the attention, and just gives you that bonding time. So that's something that I want to do, and I've got to figure out how to make that happen and actually do it. Um, which really is just put it on the calendar and make it happen is really the way to make it happen. So I just thought that was a really good idea, and I've known that idea for several years and never have really implemented it. Clint, you gonna do the next one?
Are we on spirituality?
I'm sorry.
Are we on love life or spirituality?
Love life. You must have skipped ahead.
Yeah, no, I guess I did. Again, so top 2 goals around love life, and again, probably around those frustrations. One of my frustrations personally was not enough quality time, alone time. We have little ones, I mentioned before. We have a newborn and a soon to be 2-year-old. And man, when they're awake, you can't get anything done. You can't do anything but, you know, tend to their needs. So we actually went on a date on Saturday, and it was like awesome because they were with someone else, and we could actually have a conversation without having to change a diaper or, you know, coddle a crying child. So, you know, one of my goals around this will be to get a babysitter and spend time weekly, even if it's just going for a walk. But we can't do that without getting somebody else to watch them, because the 2-year-old can't watch the newborn. So we have to intentionally like plan it, and this is where this comes in.
About a month ago, we did that same thing, Clint. Is we hired a babysitter like on a Thursday night, and we said for 4 hours we're just gonna go have dinner. You know, we got a pedicure, we had dinner, and it was amazing because we were able to like talk as adults and not the kids hanging on us. And we said, why don't we just like make this a thing every Thursday? We haven't yet done that, but that's going to be one of my goals for this year. But like, why don't we make it a goal? Because even if we're not just, you know, even if we're just going, hey, we need to go shopping for a couple things, but we don't want the kids all hanging all over us and dragging them around, getting them in and out of the car. Let's just spend quality time because we can actually talk while we're doing these things and have time together, just us two. And it was pretty empowering. It was pretty cool. Like it gave us this, like, well, we haven't had this in like 6 years, you know, where it's just this consistency. So I think it would be that's an awesome perspective.
And I will say this. So when you have the realization of any of these things, the sooner you implement it, the more likely you'll actually implement it and it will stick. Like Chris said before about waiting until January to call his buddy. Like if he starts doing that now, by the time January rolls around, it's almost a habit already, as opposed to, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that thing. I'm busy this Friday, I'm not going to do it, or whatever it is, right? So when you have the idea, when you're convicted about it, implement it into life as quickly as you can. And that goes with any of these things. If my goal is to get my work hours down and I think, well, I'll do that in January. Who thinks January is going to be busy? January's always busy, right? So like you got to start working on getting the hours down now so that when January rolls around, you're already working on it. You're already getting them down. So anyway, it's like what you just said. I think it's awesome. But again, for us, it would be like, yeah, I'm not going to, January, February is going to roll around and it's not going to be like, you know what? Now's a good time to hire a babysitter so that every Thursday we can go spend a couple of hours together. Like that would be something to go ahead and find a babysitter now and schedule. And that way it's not something that has to be worked on. It's already been worked on and it's done and it's in the budget to pay for it. It's in the calendar to know that don't schedule appointments for me, don't schedule anything, for your wife or whatever, so that it actually happens. So anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So what we plan for happens. That's if you don't plan for it, it's probably not going to happen. All right, so I think we should have 14 goals.
Did we do
Right?
spirituality?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we did not. I've already done mine. That's why it was full. So Clint, go ahead and lead us through that too, man.
Spirituality, top 2 goals based around frustrations. And there you have my opinion. And in my life, this is the most important area of life that everything else flows from. And when this is where it needs to be, the rest of life gets easier. The rest of life gets better. And when it's out of line, again, for me personally, other things tend to get out of line really, really quickly and really easily. So if this is something that is important to you, then have some goals around, for me, mine is getting up a little earlier to have quiet time in the mornings, because I mentioned having kids several times. Once they're up, it's super, super hard to have any quiet time or peace to pray or study or do anything like that. So spending some time in the morning studying, maybe praying, doing some gratitude, maybe who has found this year that like church, if you go to worship somewhere, it's gotten different, right? Like for a long time, you couldn't physically go. We go and you have to still be socially distanced from some, like, it's just like a different dynamic doing things online or, so maybe your goals are based around that. Maybe you're looking for a new church home. Maybe you want to become more involved where you're at, whatever it is. But top 2 things there.
So now at this point, we should have 14 goals, right? 2, at least 2, maybe 3 for a few areas. But, when you look through there, read through them real quick and write down what are your most important goals to focus on. What needs to happen the most for you to feel like 2021 was a success. If your time has been out of control, maybe it's going on a vacation with the family and getting home for dinner 3 nights a week. If you haven't had the spirituality like Clint talked about, maybe that's the number 1 goal that you need to work on. Maybe it is a work goal that, hey, I've got to close this many units next year because I know that we have an opportunity in the real estate market. And if I work hard and I have a system and a plan and maybe even a team member to help me, I can hit this big goal that I'm going to set for myself for 2021. And that could be the most important one. And then one last little exercise after you write down the most important goals is go over on the left-hand side and rank each area in number of importance. What is the most important area for you to work on? Is it friends, family, and rank it 1 through 7, right? And I know a lot of times people Clint kind of touched on this. People say, oh, spirituality is number one. It's, we put spirituality first and then family and then work. And it's hard to like, do we really do that? I know we say it, but there's still a way, because I think the reason we say that, well, it's hard to really live that out with, God first, family second, work third, is because we spend so much time at work, right? You don't spend 40 hours a week in spirituality. You probably don't spend 40 hours a week with your family, doing family activities. They're at school, you're at work, you come home, you got 3 or 4 hours at night that you spend together, maybe an hour in the morning getting ready. So you spend more time at work. It's really important, in my opinion, that God and spirituality can be first, that all the other things flow through that. Like everything you do at work can come from your faith. Everything that you do with your family can come from your faith. You may spend 10 hours at work today, but if it's coming from your faith, you're still putting God first. You're just focused on, your work and taking care of people at that time. So it's a good way to think about it. But anyway, rank those on a scale of 1 to 7. What's most important to what's least important for you in your life right now? And that list can change. Work may be more important right now than it will be in 20 years when you're retired. All right, guys. So we have our goals. We have some goals set. This does not have to be your final goal setting, right? You can go back through this and really think about what you want and finalize it between now and the end of the year. Another huge tip, if you have a spouse, go through this with them. Go through the whole exercise. You just went through it. It's really not that hard. Lead them through it, print out another set, take an hour with them, have them do a wheel of life, and then compare their goals with your goals, right? And don't show them your goals yet if they're going to do the exercise. Let them come up with their own, because it's really good that you guys get on the same page. Because if their goal is, I want more quality time, I want you home. That's what my wife's like. I just want you home. I don't really care about the money. I don't really care about the work. I just want you home. And my goal is, I want to double my business. Do those goals align, or is that going to cause conflict? Right. So that was, years ago that we would have those conversations. Now we're much more in alignment. So make sure you go over your goals with your spouse, have them do the wheel of life, and make sure that y'all's goals line up. If they want to take 2 weeks of vacation, you want to take 2 weeks of vacation, perfect. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and set that in the calendar. If your goal is, I'm going to work 60 hours a week and not take any vacation, and their goals are opposite, that's going to create conflict, I promise you, down the road. So being in alignment with your spouse is a huge deal on these goals. You can do this exercise with your team. You can do it with people at the office that you care about. You can do it with your kids. We usually kind of go through it just on January 1st or 2nd. We'll go through it with the kids and say, hey, let's do some goal setting. What do you guys want to accomplish this year? I don't think they ever look at it or even think about it again, but I'm trying to put in their mind, if you want something, you have to set a goal for it or it won't happen.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and it's separate from the kids thing. We just did it with we have an older child as well. And we just did it with him, but reviewing it, like saying that the kids won't pick it up and review it. It's probably true. Adults also don't pick them up and review them. So one of the keys is to laminate them, because if you laminate it, you legally cannot throw it away. You can get arrested for throwing away something that's been laminated. So that's one. It also just doesn't, that was a joke. You can't get arrested for it, but it won't get all crinkled up and marked on and ruined. And then I personally print 3 or 4 copies, and I'll put one in my desk drawer and one in my desk at home and one in my truck. And that way I know at any point in time, if I want to review it, which I think reviewing it on a weekly or monthly at the absolute least monthly, you can grab your goals and pull them out and review them. And it will give you a reminder of, yes, and I do this, like one page is my like goals for the business, and then the backside personally I do like the spirituality and the self and the love life, and I put all these on one page, and I can grab it. And I'll use Chris's example of calling a friend every Friday, right? If it's February 15th and he pulls out his goals and he's running through them and he gets down to friends and he says, man, that was a great idea and I've forgotten, or I stopped doing it. It's that reminder of like, okay, I'm going to start doing this again. Like this Friday, I'm putting it on my calendar. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the list and know who I'm going to call, and put that back into your into your brain and into your system, because it won't just naturally happen. If you finish these goals and you're super excited about them, in 365 days from now, we're doing this again for next year, and you're like, you pull out your goals, you may hit, of the 14, you may hit one or two. Heck, if you're great, you may hit three or four. Most of us won't hit any of them if we don't review them. And my goal is to, you know, whatever it is, pay off that one credit card, or read all the way through the Bible, or read 12 books next year. You'll pull this out and go, man, I was going to read 12 books. I think I read one book this year. Man, that's a good goal, though. I'm going to write that down again for next year, right? What'll happen is April rolls around, you're looking at your goals again, and you're like, crap, I was going to read 12 books. I haven't read any yet. All right, this weekend, I'm going to pick out 2 books that I'm going to read before the end of this month, right? And get back on track for that. So it just keeps it in front of you. It's super important. If you keep it in front of you and review it often, again, you are so much more likely. And again, you might not accomplish them all, but even if you only accomplish 10 of the 14, that's really good. And your life will improve if you're accomplishing these goals that you've set.
Awesome. So guys, you have your goals, tweak them, finalize them, make them part of your life. Clint, great comment on reviewing them often. So now let's take a 3-minute break. We've been doing this for an hour. We're going to get into business planning. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to let Mitch is actually going to lead us through business planning, and we're talking about a 1-page plan for realtors. It's a little bit different format than we've used in the past. If you've done this in the past, I think you'll really like it. So let's take a couple-minute break. I don't want anybody to have to use the restroom or anything. We will start back. We'll start back in 5 minutes. Is that okay? So we'll be right back in 5 minutes.
Perfect.
I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes, and we will see you back here.
Right.
All right, my 5 minute alarm just went off, so we should be about ready to start back up. Mitch, are you here? Just give me just a second. All right, I know Suzanne, you've done. I don't know if you're here. I can't see if you're here. I see that you're still logged in, but I don't know if you're on your camera. But I know you've done the Wheel of Life. Can you talk about your goal setting processes and how that's affected your business and your life in the past for everybody? Suzanne may still be away. She's on mute. So, um, Mitch, you're back, brother. So if you would
Yes.
like to walk us through, so if you can do a screen share, Mitch, and show the form. Everybody should have the form from Robin. It's a one page, I believe it's a one page Excel sheet, and I believe they can type in it and all that stuff. So it should make it pretty easy. But I want to make sure everybody has the form that you're going to go over. We sent out several forms to everybody, but we're going to go over this one with Mitch. You guys can go through the other forms if you like, later on for more detailed business planning. But Mitch is going to go over a one-page form with us.
Yeah. So this form, did everybody get this? If you haven't got the form that says, it should say realtor business plan, and it's an Excel form. Just put it in the comments that you didn't receive it, and we'll make sure we get it over to you. But if you open it up, this is like a one-page. I adjusted some of the cells, so if you were to print this, you might need to adjust the
And this is the screen. Can everybody see it? This is
yeah.
what he's talking about. This is a 2020 vision for
No, we can't.
2021.
We see a picture of your family in a virtual lunch and learn.
Nice. Gotta love it. All right.
Do you want me to share mine, Chris?
Yeah, share yours.
I'm disabled.
All right,
Host
hang on.
disabled.
I'll get
Okay.
to the right one. Is that it?
Yeah. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
So you may have to adjust the print margins on this if you want to print it out. But the idea is to keep it to like a one-page document, because kind of like what Clint was saying, a lot of times you fill out these, 2, 3, 4, 5-page business plans, and then they get stuck in a drawer and you never look at them till the end of the year. And so this is kind of designed to be able to like print out, either have on your desk or have with you, or what's kind of neat about it being already in Excel. And if you were to fill this out in Excel, then you could actually like save it to your desktop, right? And it will just be there that you could just click on it at, any day during the week, during the year, and just check, am I on track with these goals that I've set and these tasks that I've set? So it's meant to just kind of be a quick access type of document to be able to just check your progress with your goals. So one of my mentors, Chris obviously is a mentor. Clint, as much as he doesn't want me to tell you guys, he's been a mentor as well. But
thank you. I've been waiting for that.
But I also have another mentor that belong to another coaching program as well, and they use this with their students. And this is something that, we've converted also to, a realtor version of it as well. And this has been extremely successful with their students. And so basically the concept here is to break down, you pick your top 5 business goals, and you may have more than that, and that's perfectly fine. Go ahead, add more cells if you want. But, and you can adjust these cells if you can't fit, what your goal is within that box, and you can adjust that. But go ahead and pick, top 5 business goals, and fill those in there. And I don't know, Chris, if you want me to take the time to like let folks walk through this, or if you.
No, definitely. I think,
Okay.
and I just printed out on mine too. I don't know if you could probably see my screen doing that, but yeah. So what we want to do, Mitch, is just go ahead and go through it now. We're going to write down your top 5 business goals right now. They may change, right? You haven't thought about it that much, and 2 weeks from now, before you finalize it, you may change it to something different. But we're going to go ahead and let's go through it and let's fill this out the best that we can. The word of the year. Yeah, I probably need to put a little bit more thought than just, hey, what's my word for 2021, and just throw something on there. But if you have a word that you want to think of, go ahead and do it. But yeah, Mitch, just walk us through
Yeah.
the whole thing and
Okay.
let's fill it out the best we can.
So yeah, word of the year might be something that you put in there. You may not choose it this minute, but it might be something that after reviewing all your goals, you say, this is what my word of the year is, and it's kind of like hopefully empowers you to complete your goals. So the easiest part to list here would be your 2020 listings, or your 2020, what you've done this year or planning to complete this year. So how many listing sides, how many buyer sides, what your comp plan is. Everyone's different, what your average sales price is. And this is also why it's good to know your numbers. How much income you've made as a result of your sales. How many partners do you have helping you? A number of staff. So partners would be like, let's say, a buyer's agent or somebody like that. Staff would be maybe like a transaction coordinator or a runner, to run signs and do this and that. So, and then 2021 obviously is what you would like to have happened by the end of the year. So how many listing sides would have you done? How many buyer sides would have you done? Is your comp plan the same? Are you not happy with your comp plan now and you want to increase it maybe where you're currently at, or maybe you need to make a move with your business so you can increase your comp plan? What has your average sales price stayed the same, gone up? And as a result, has your income increased? And then again, have you added a partner, a buyer's agent, any help, any staff to your team, to you and your business by the end of 2021? And one of the biggest things, go ahead, Chris.
So I was going to say, Mitch, can we take just a couple of minutes? Because right now,
yep, absolutely,
they can do that. Say, okay, what are your numbers for 2020 roughly? You know what you got in the pipeline. What's going to close in the next 3 weeks? Let's just do it. Let's give them a few minutes and fill this out, and then we'll talk about when you want to do increases. It's always a minimum of 20% increase is generally what we want to shoot for.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the goals, and let's take 5 minutes and do it.
And if you want to increase your income, there's a couple ways to do that. Obviously, you can get more deals. So you can put more deals in there. You can increase your comp plan is another way to do it. And then, or you can increase your average sales price, right? So think of it in those terms as you are listing these out. So go ahead and take the time to do that right now.
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If anybody needs it, message us. We'll make sure that we email you this blank form so that you can work on it. Does anybody need more time to fill out that box?
I was somebody had asked me to send them one that would print on one page, and the margins of the one I sent are kind of messed up. So if you know how to do it, that's great. But if you want a version that you can just easily print and it comes out on one page, I can send that to you. Just put it in the chat.
Cool. So has everybody done the 2020? And then also, and go ahead and do the 2021 as well. What did you do this year? What do you want to do next year? And think about this. Mitch gave you 3 ways to increase your income, right? Do more units, do more comp, do a higher sales price. You could do all 3. Why not do 10% more units? Maybe get a better comp plan at your brokerage. That may or may not be possible. And then why not increase your sales price? If you increase your units by 10% and you increase your sales price by 10%, you should hit your 20% income goal pretty much right there. So, it can be one of the 3, 2 of the 3, or all 3 to get you where you want to be.
Cool. So the next section would be to, fill out your top 5 business goals. So think of these business goals as far as, like you may already have some in mind that you can start putting in there. I've talked to agents that said, I want to stop working Sundays, right? I do not want to have worked the Sunday. So think of these goals as by the end of 2021, you will have completed these. So maybe you don't complete these right away, right? Maybe you can't immediately just stop working Sundays because you want that time for God and your family. But it's something that maybe halfway through the year you want to be able to start hitting consistently. But at least by the end of the year, this will have been, implemented and in place. So whatever those goals may be, list out the top 5 of those business goals that you want to hit by the end of 2021. And as you're doing that, and you get through that, same thing with the personal goals. You could kind of reference back to what Chris and Clint have already went over, and maybe some of those goals are going to be your personal goals as well. And we'll give it to 11:35, and then we'll move on to the next section.
Are we seeing the questions over on the right in the chat?
Like a one page as well. Okay, thanks for letting me know.
So it's, one of the questions I saw was what are some examples of the non-negotiables? So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Clint.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say like one of the non-negotiables might be I make 10 outbound phone calls every single day. Non-negotiable, right?
Yep.
I don't decide not to do it. I don't get overwhelmed with other stuff, paperwork, appointments, but like a non-negotiable is a 10 outbound phone calls, or maybe it's a power hour. Maybe it's a morning meeting either with my team or with myself to plan my day. I take the first 30 minutes of the day to plan my day every single day. It's non-negotiable. I don't just choose some days not to do it, right? So maybe it's a morning meeting, maybe it's a power hour every single day. Maybe it's Tuesday update calls, right? Like that's something that we do that is a non-negotiable. It's not something that we choose to do occasionally, and sometimes we choose not to do. Same thing on a monthly, right? So monthly, I go through and I do my P&L. I look at my expenses. I do my budget. Whatever it is, maybe it's I call a certain number of people in my database, or maybe it's my past clients that have closed in that month. So monthly, I call all the people that have ever closed in the month of December and check in on them as far as my past clients are concerned. But things that I don't get to say yes or no to, it's a yes for sure every single time, every time, period. And there are more like that. Those are just some that pop up in my head.
That's exactly right. I mean, that like for me, it's 80 outbound phone calls a week. So think of them in terms of weekly and then monthly. And so first break it down daily. What can I do daily? But we all have days where you're going to get slammed with, having to go, to a listing appointment, and then the buyers call in, they have questions about this, and and you're running all over and you don't do your whatever. Well, that just means, well, now that still has to happen. It has to happen that week. Maybe you had said 1 power hour a day, 4 days or 5 days a week. Well, if you didn't do it on Monday, then you got to make that up some other point in the week. So weekly non-negotiables is exactly right. Maybe it has to do with marketing. Maybe you have, hey, I want to make 3 posts to my social media a week. So 3 posts a week is a non-negotiable. So come Friday, you've only made 2, or you've only made 1. You got to figure out what to do to get that in, to reach those goals.
Mm-hmm. Your mail out, like your
mail out
monthly.
Once a month. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I love non-negotiable, right? Because the word non-negotiable, the thought non-negotiable. It's, man, if I get around to it, if it's truly a non-negotiable, this is, I don't have a choice. I do the mail out to my database every single month without fail, because I've said I'm going to, and it's a part of my business that it will always be a part of my business unless I decide it's something that's no longer important. Which the things we've mentioned should always, I think, are timeless. Making phone calls, sending mail.
Is everybody ready to move on to the next section, the activities? So I'm going to mail. By the way, I'm going to send. I'll send you guys a 1-page printout as well to everyone that I sent it, or Robin will. One of us will get you some. We'll get you that. So coming down here to the top 3 activities for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So let's say you did not want to work. Let's just throw it out there. You don't want to show property on the weekends. You said, you know what? I want that time with my family. I get burnt out. It's every single day. I want to have, so one of my goals is to eventually move away from showing property on the weekends. So what does that look like? What would be your first activity to get that ball rolling? Well, you can't just not have a business on the weekend, right? Somebody's got to show those properties to those clients that need to go on the weekends or late at night. So maybe the first step is, finding somebody, interviewing, talking with other agents that may be interested to help you out and show property on the weekends. So the first activity would be to speak with an agent, other agents to interview to kind of get that ball rolling, to make those calls. Clint or Chris, do you have any other ideas as far as like activities that you can get in place that's like a step by step? Because quarter one, you do this, quarter two, you do this. Maybe by quarter three, you now have completed that goal because you've worked through these activities. Any other examples, Clint, Chris?
And what example were you talking about? What was the goal you were working on? It was quarter one.
Well, quarter one, I just threw something out like, hey, what if you don't want to work weekends anymore, or not work a Sunday, and somebody wants to go see a home on a Sunday? You have to have somebody that you can rely on, right? That can go show that property for you, so you don't give in to that. So, but having somebody in place, you've got to, you've got to hire somebody, or you've got to team up with somebody, right? So
that's right. And I think that's a great point, Mitch. Some of your goals are, going to take 1 or 2 or 3 quarters of work to build up to. Let's say that your goal is to hire a team around you. Well, you're probably going to hire 3 people in January. If your goal, and that's a great point, Mitch, of if my goal is to not work on Sundays, I've been in the business for 15 years. I've been doing this, and my time with my family is more important. You should be able to knock that goal out in quarter one just by getting creative, right? You can find a new, young, hungry realtor that is willing to work Sundays because they're new, young, and hungry, and maybe don't have the time constraints that you do, and partner with them. You don't necessarily have to hire them on your team to be, your buyer's agent. Just say, look, I will pay you a referral fee. We'll split the commissions on deals that you actually close, or however you work that out. But just say, hey, if it's a Sunday showing, I want you to be the person. Now, it has to be good enough for them to do it. You can't say, I'm going to give you 20% of the commission, even though you're the one showing the house, writing the contract, and doing all that. You have to figure out what's fair for them and what's fair for you. But that should be a quarter one. I'm going to partner with a great young realtor that's willing to work Sundays for me, and that's going to be a check mark that that's done.
Yeah.
And if you have a bigger goal of, partnering with a big builder, you want to be their preferred realtor that lists all their properties. Quarter one might be, get a list of builders to start calling on and meet 10. Quarter two is to move that along, because sometimes these builders, they don't make those decisions in one meeting. It could be a 2 or 3 quarter meeting or process to make that happen. So each goal is going to have a different thing. So you got 5 goals. 2 of them might be knocked out in quarter one. Just make the change.
Yeah, and you can add, because we're keeping this to a 1-pager, it's, there's only 3 activities, but, those are the top 3 activities. You can kind of have a sidebar on some of the other ones that will help you reach your other goals as well. But the same thing, a transaction coordinator. If you don't have one, and that's something that, I hear people talk about having that, and it really helps, and I've been meaning to do that. We'll make quarter number 1 activity, interview, or ask, for options, ask other agents that use a transaction coordinator, how do you like yours? Are they open? And then get their names, get their numbers. So you're calling on that. So interview by quarter 2, have a transaction coordinator, hired or in place. So these activities will keep you on track with your goal. I love the quarters, because like Clint said, by April, you take a look at your, your goals, and you're like, hey, I haven't read, I was going to read 12 books this year and I haven't read any books. Well, this is kind of the same thing with your business. You look at end of quarter 1, hey, did I complete these activities? No, I didn't. So I'm now a quarter behind on trying to get to my goal, to reach my goal. So it just kind of keeps you in check as you move through the year.
And can I just say, I think a lot of times I don't think many people ever complete a business plan like this. So I think a 1-pager is super nice because it's digestible and you can pick it up and look at it. Most people never complete it. The ones who do complete it, I think the mistake that we make is we act like it's in stone, right? And you can't, crap, it's my goals. These are my goals, or this was my business plan. I can't change it. I laminated it, right? Who thought 2020 was going to go the way that it went? Anybody, right? If you had a business plan in January of last year and you didn't make adjustments this year, I think that was probably a mistake, right? If my goal was to meet with 80% of my clients this year face-to-face and I didn't make an adjustment, how stupid am I, right? like you've got to make adjustments throughout the process. So that's one of the things about the top 3 activities for each quarter. Listen, we might get into Q2 and you may have to make some changes, or you may have to adjust some things for Q4, Q3 or Q4. That's fine. Like that's the way it works. In football games, a team comes out with a game plan and then they make adjustments throughout the game plan. They use halftime to make adjustments and come out and continue along the path to try to win the game. It's no different than what we're doing. Yes, we want to put this all down, but it doesn't mean we can't make changes or adjustments to it throughout the year. Let's hope 2021 is different than 2020 in a lot of respects. But let's just say it gets worse. Well, that's okay. We can make adjustments to this plan. And that's what good business people do, right? You don't just blindly follow something because you wrote it down and laminated. You make adjustments as necessary. So
that's a great point. And when you break it into quarters, you can, you can do it on the fly at any point, but quarters really kind of give you that halftime, pause where you can really take a look at it. Am I on track? What are my activities for Q2? Well, they don't really fall in line because I have to make adjustments based on whatever the situation that, the year's presenting, like Clint's saying. So then maybe you change Q2 activities. Maybe you adjust a little bit of that. But if you at least have it to look at and to think about, then you're doing something with a purpose and being deliberate about it rather than letting the year or letting your business control you. So, and then the schedule. So the schedule down here is Monday through Thursday. So basically just laying out your day. What does my normal day look like, Monday through Thursday? In our business, we always like to say have Friday off, or for me, it's to work on my business on Fridays. And so whatever, this could be Monday through Friday, this could be Monday through Sunday, however you want to look at this. What does your day look like? So 7 to 9 would be, maybe it's having some spiritual time, maybe it's working out, whatever that time may be, reading a book, whatever that time may be, 7 to 9. 9 a.m. Could be checking emails and getting ready, getting your day ready and getting your what we call big rock set for what you have to accomplish that day. Maybe 10 and 11 a.m. are your power hours, your prospecting. You're making phone calls, you are setting appointments, that kind of thing. Noon's lunch or whatever you would do there. And then you'd go into your afternoon. Maybe you have, and you can change these times because maybe you work to 7 o'clock showing homes or 8 o'clock showing homes. Like you can change that and just say, hey, on, like Clint said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I show homes at these times, but the other days I stop at 5 or whatever that may look like as it pertains to what your goals are. So setting the schedule kind of gets you thinking, okay, every single day, this is my time block. This is my time block. And it's 10 a.m. I'm supposed to be making phone calls right now. I know I have to do X, Y, and Z, but that can literally wait until noon or this afternoon. I need to make these calls because it's also one of my non-negotiables and it's already built into your schedule. So just plan your day out each day like that. And then at the bottom, when technology that you want to implement, something that you've been, a CRM, a calling system, a text message system, an email system, social media poster for you, whatever it is, marketing, put that in there that say this, I want to implement this one thing this next year that I really think is going to help my business.
And Mitch, I got an idea just for you guys that are on here. There's a couple things that we do. One is HomeBot. If you don't know what HomeBot is, it's a cool system that we have that is basically like a Zillow type system that gives your client a bunch of information. It's a one time a month, and it emails the client. You can piggyback with us, and you can have your whole database dumped into it. You do have to pay, I think it's $25 a month just to keep it legal for RESPA. But then your client will get things branded to them with your picture on it, with your information that says, hey, and it's not a perfect system, right? But what it does, people will say, hey, I think my home value is off. Well, that gives you an opportunity to say, oh, what do you think your home's worth? Why do you care what your home's worth? right? Are you thinking about selling? Are you thinking about, doing something else? It's an easy conversation. It's like, hey, it's just like a Zillow type thing. It's just an online estimator, but it gives them a bunch more information than just value. It talks about what their loan was because it has the loan information. It'll tell them what their rate was when they closed. It'll give them an opportunity to say, if you pay extra, how quickly will it pay off? Could they benefit from a refi? There's a bunch of things in there. So that could be one thing you can do. Also, we do the list reports. So on your listings, you can piggyback with us. We actually pay for that. I think it's completely free for you. But if you want to, you put in the listing information, the address, and it'll pull all the school information. It'll pull all the statistics for demographics, just everything. It pulls everything in that you might need, and you can print out flyers. It takes like 3 to 5 minutes per listing. And again, it's something that we pay for and is done for you. So those little pieces of a technology, if you want to get more information, just email the loan officer you work with, and we're glad to help you out with that.
Yep. And then one thing you want to stop doing. So whatever that may be, I mean, with your business, of course. So if
I was thinking smoking, Mitch. I mean,
yeah, you're pretty bad at that, Chris. Think every time you walk in the office. No, I'm just kidding. So as far as, okay, one thing to stop doing may be that you don't want to. Let's say you don't want to make social media posts. You're doing those, but you just don't want to do that, but you want it to be done. So maybe you hire somebody or a company or something to help you with that. Maybe it's I'm just trying to think of ideas and these are things that probably need to get done, still need to get done. Not necessarily something that you just flat out just stop doing. It's something that needs to maybe get done that maybe you're going to delegate, right? So is there something that you just don't like doing it, but you you have to because your business counts on it, but you just hate doing it? What is that one thing, and can you delegate it? So basically picking that one thing by the end of the year to say, here, I want you to do this, and finding somebody to do it. It doesn't always have to cost money. Maybe it does, but maybe you find a creative way to do it. But if you're thinking about, oh, I can choose to not do this anymore. I can choose to have somebody else or have something else do this for me. Then you're more likely to complete it and actually make it happen.
Yeah, and I think more important than what the things that we're trying to start doing all the time, we're always trying to start new things and do new things. In order to start something new, you have to stop doing something else. Right? If you say, hey, I'm going to spend an hour and a half every morning, 90 minutes block out, I'm going to do outbound calls. Awesome. You just took 7.5 hours of your week that you're currently doing something. So you may have to have some help somewhere to free that time back up, or you're going to work an additional 7.5 hours a week. And actually you work a lot more because that time you spend prospecting creates so much more business.
Yep.
And Mitch, what's the word of the year, man? That's I think that's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, so the word of the year is just kind of like, you pick something that you want to just kind of focus that you think will sum up your year for, that's coming up. Maybe it's, I don't know, focus. Maybe it's, crush, you're going to crush this next year. Whatever that word may be, I'm picking very generic, like not very fun words right now, but basically it's a word that you can kind of like wrap your business plan and your concept of what you're trying to accomplish next year around, and that kind of be your empowerment word. So just something that just kind of, I think adds a little bit of a different perspective or, angle to this whole thing. It's not, yes, it is business. It's a lot of it's numbers, but it's also something like this is part of your life. And this is hopefully, going to help you improve your life even more. And so maybe pick a word that, means a lot to you. Maybe it's somebody's name. Maybe you lost a family member and that put things in perspective, what's important for you. And you want to constantly remember them, and that, maybe it's somebody that has helped you with your business, and that person, it reminds you, yes, got to keep going. When times get tough, you think of your word of the year, and that's what empowers you to keep going and trying to reach all your goals.
And I think that's really cool. The family member, especially when you like, if you've got kids or a spouse
Yep.
that, if you're trying to get your hours down, thinking about them will help you stay focused so you can get home on time, or
Yep.
maybe close some more deals so that there's a little more pressure relieved on the financing side of things. I'm not saying you should use the word intentional, but for me, that's always a really impactful word. The word intentional. Am I intentional with my actions right now? Am I intentional with my conversations with people? Am I intentional about getting home on time, and about why I'm working and who I'm working for? Am I working for my ego so that I can, be proud about how many deals we close, or am I working so that I can provide for my family and being intentional about what I'm doing? So to me, that's a very impactful word and way to think about things. And I've done that before. I had a coach, go have us read a book. I think it was called I
One
can't
word.
remember what it was
Is
called.
it one? John Gordon wrote a book called One Word.
No, but it wasn't that. It was
It wasn't
something.
that
It
one?
was something else like one word, but maybe it was him. I don't know. But it really helped you focus in and narrow that down. But um, and something that can like bring you back to center, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. Where when you see that name or that word or that phrase, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm back in the moment. I can put my mindset back where I know I want it to be, where my purpose is. And maybe that's the word, passion or purpose or something like that.
Yep.
So you
Yep.
can always get centered back to, why do I do what I do? Why am I a real estate agent trying to close another deal? Right? What's the real reason behind it all? What's the why?
That's
Yeah.
great.
And that is a book. I just looked it up. I actually have this book and have not read it. As many. If you guys ever recommend an awesome book, I'll probably go to Amazon and buy it, and it'll go in my stack of 50 books that I haven't read from Amazon. I read books, but with kids and everything, it's only a few a year that I actually get through. But anyway, there is a book, John Gordon, One Word That Will Change Your Life, and you can buy that book for $12, and
Yeah.
and probably read that first and to get that. Look, I've got the book.
They're
It's probably
really,
100
really short.
pages. Yeah, 50 to 100 pages. It looks like it's pretty short. So anyway, very cool. So everybody should have a one-page business plan. Mitch, is there anything else on this one page plan we
No,
haven't covered?
I would just, keep in mind that, I would do, it says, we have on here the top 5 personal goals, and a lot of that can come from what we went over earlier from the other forms. But the key to the activities, like the biggest part of this, obviously the non-negotiables, and seeing your numbers, like writing your numbers out at the top there. But one of the other big important parts to keep in mind on this form, why it's so important, is the activities that you really are breaking out step by step how to get to that goal, right? And that's what the path that leads you to achieving the goal, and the timeline broken out in quarters. So same thing with losing, let's say you wanted to, personal goal is like, hey, I wanted to lose, 20 pounds. Well, you're not going to, maybe you could do it all in quarter one, but I know me, I can't do it. That'd be really hard. So, I'd break it out to, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds in quarter one, another 5 pounds. It's just breaking it out step by step to get to your goal. That's what's really the way you got to think through this form. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it, guys. So hopefully you guys got some great information. Please use this information. Clint's got his little man about to turn 2. He's a cute one. So, and there's also some other forms here, guys. There is the how much money do I need to retire form. It's a 3-page exercise. Take you 10, 15 minutes to work through that. It's kind of self-explanatory. There's the one, there's more details on a business plan if you want to go through that on some other forms. So, but don't get overcomplicated. That's one thing I'll tell you. That's one thing I love about the Wheel of Life. There's 7 areas, and we don't try to set 5 goals in each area and have 35 goals. My goodness, if I have 35 goals, I'm not going to get it done. If you set 2 in each area, there's 14. I can do 2 areas in myself. I can do two goals in money. I can accomplish 2 goals in spirituality. So it keeps it simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. And this is a great exercise. Again, go back and share this with folks that you love. Do this exercise, the Wheel of Life, with your spouse, your kids, and I believe that it'll have a positive impact on anybody who takes the time to do it. We're going to do it next week with our entire office.
And I will say, Chris, I know you feel the same way, and Clint does too. If you guys ever want to discuss this further, like how you want help thinking through some of your goals or what the steps to achieve those goals, we're more than happy to do that. We've been part of coaching and mentorships for years, and have been we've all been doing these business plans for years, and so we've had a lot of practice at it and have heard a lot of good advice. None of the ideas are our own. They're all advice that we've heard from coaches and mentors that have had massive success. So if you guys want to, pick our brains individually, feel free to reach out. I know Clint feels the same. I think he jumped off because his little man's here. So
Yeah.
uh,
Awesome. Any
awesome.
questions or comments before we leave? Is there anything that we didn't cover? You guys can just unmute yourself if you have any questions at all. I don't see anyone unmuting themselves, so we must have covered everything. Guys, we appreciate you being here. I know it was 2 hours, and hopefully this is 2 hours that you find to be impactful. We don't get paid for this. I always ask everybody, we appreciate your referrals, and we do this because we love you guys. We appreciate what you do. If you have new people coming around that need to get pre-approved, ready to go, please send them to me if I'm your loan officer, Mitch, if he's your loan officer, to the loan officer you work with over here. And then, of course, if you guys know anybody that has not refinanced in 2020, they should really take a look at it, including yourself. Rates are ridiculous. And if you plan to be in the house more than 2 years, you're probably going to save a lot of money, especially if you plan to keep this house 5, 10, 15 years, what you can save on a rate. Even if you have a rate in the threes, getting rates in the twos will save you a lot of money. It's also a great opportunity to call your clients and ask them, hey, have you refinanced in 2020? If they haven't, hey, I've got a great loan officer that I'd love to refer you to that can help you out. But here's one question for you before you do that. Do you plan to sell in the next 2 to 3 years? If they say, yeah, you know what, I am actually planning to sell, well, they probably don't need to refinance, right? They're not going to save enough money. We have to have that conversation all the time. We will have an honest conversation with those clients, and we will advise them not to refinance.
Mm-hmm.
Not all banks will. Like, hey, no, this is good. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just get it refinanced, get the lower rate. Well, it's not going to make sense for them if they're going to sell in 2 or 3 years. But where you're having those conversations, that's going to produce leads for you of people who are thinking of selling in the next 1 to 3 years, right? Now you've got a lead like, oh, hey, Mr. Jones from 4 years ago, I called him to ask him if he's refinanced or if he wanted to, and he said he might sell next year. Perfect. Now I know to call and follow up with him in March because he wants to get his property on the market that next summer. So it's a great way just to reach out to your clients, offer them a
Great
service,
leverage. Mm-hmm.
and it will absolutely get you business. So thank you guys for coming. We won't hold you any longer. Normally we have lunch now. Since you're not here with us, we can't go eat lunch, but you guys go have an enjoyable lunch. If we don't talk to you before, have a very Merry Christmas. And thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.